Hey YouTube, welcome back. Doing something a little bit different today. I'm turning this piece of quarter sawn willow acacia that I got as an offcut from a piece of pith. And I'm making these tiny little spice/jewelry bowls that sell quite well at my local farmer's market. And since I just kind of got in a groove and I was making a whole bunch of them, I thought, you know what, why don't I just do a recording of real time of the whole bowl. So here I'm using my new gouge from Find Buy Tools. It's the M2 Cryos. It's a really nice gouge. It's now become my go-to. And mounted up in my Easy Wood chuck with 1/2-inch Easy Reach tools. So all the blanks I had pre-drilled with a 1 3/8 Forstner bit on my drill press, and I just used that as my recess for the mounting, and that made things super quick and easy to do. And I learned that trick from Kerry Corney, watching him do his 600 bowl batches. That's pretty epic. And then once I've got a little bit turned on the bottom here, you can see I marked the tenon, and that's for my 1 3/8 inch jaws for the Easy Wood chuck. And I just mark it, and that's going to be my base as well. So I kind of make it as efficient as possible. The base and the tenon are one thing. And I use a really sharp angle grind on this Carter & Son bowl gouge to form the tenon and to kind of hollow it out at the bottom there. Okay, so once I have the tenon/foot formed with the gouge, I use this tiny little skew to just clean that up so I don't have to do any sanding at the end and worry about getting into that little corner. It's super handy. And I use the skew to get that dovetail, but it also fits my small jaws on my Easy Wood chuck, the 1 3/8 jaws, and fits them perfectly so they don't leave any mark on the base when I'm done. So I learned that from watching Richard Raffin, among other people, but he does that a lot. So since a lot of these offcuts I'm using for these tiny bowls are just chunks that I found places, they may have chainsaw marks or be beveled or whatever. So I went back to my bigger, beefier 5/8 gouge to just true up that top surface so I know how much height I have to work with. And then once I have that flat all the way around, I just go through the side and try and get that outside turned into a cylinder so then I can work on the shape. So to do the shaping now, I went back to my 5/8 gouge for just a little bit, and I'm using the method I got from Tomislav Tomasic, and he does this 1/3 method, which I happened to watch the other day. And I use that bevel, or that big gouge to make the bevel, and I come through with the 1/2-inch gouge to hollow and to make the convex curve near the base. So I'm going to end up with a little ogee shape on here. So that sharp angle on that 1/2-inch gouge really works nicely for getting into these tiny little corners. So I was happy with the shape at that point, so I went ahead and did some shear scraping with a 1/2-inch gouge just to clean up the tool marks most of the way before I go to sanding and get a decent clean surface. I did actually go to my negative rake scraper here from Carter & Son to try some shear scraping, but I don't think it was very sharp, and it didn't seem to be doing much good. So you see me struggle with it a little bit here. I get some decent small shavings off of there, but it was just not happening for me. So you'll see I abandoned that pretty quickly. I did go back and double check the foot to make sure it was concave, so it would just sit on the rim and just hit that with the negative rake scraper. At this point it's done, and this is the only part of the video I'm speeding up. I did 3 minutes and 34 seconds of sanding, 120 grit to 400 grit, and then I used the Doctor's Workshop walnut oil and wax as the finish, and that worked out really nicely. So this was actually the 10th or 11th little bowl I was doing on this day, so I had to switch out from the reach jaws to my regular small set of jaws on the Easy Wood Chuck. And this is the game changer of the Easy Wood Chuck. It's so fast. You just have this little tool that's poking a hole, and the jaws pop out, and you get your other jaws. And here I just blow off the chuck a little bit to clean it up, but you just pop it back on and you're ready to go. And if you're a beginner, this is by far the best chuck you can get, because you can get the chuck and a set of jaws and just add jaw sets and not have to buy whole new chucks and jaws if you want to do different size things or make changes or whatever. So highly recommend this chuck. This is the first chuck I ever had, and I used it for 2 years without ever buying another chuck. I do have a couple of Vicmark chucks that I use for bigger things, but this is the chuck I use for the vast majority of my turning. You can't see my face, but here I'm thinking about, do I want to rotate my headstock or not? Because that's what I usually do for hollowing, and I decided to go ahead and do that. I also had to change the camera angle, so I cut out 1.5 minutes of rotating the headstock and changing the camera angle, just so you guys wouldn't get disoriented from all of that moving around. But now I remove the bulk of the material with the 5/8 gouge and get the rim trued up and just kind of get down to the bottom as quickly as possible. One thing I did for this whole set of bowls was I turned my lathe speed way up to 2160 RPM. And I don't normally turn bowls that fast, but these things are only about 3 to 4 inches in diameter and like maybe an inch thick. So they're super light and delicate, and it really makes the turning go a lot faster with the higher RPM. And I just use a cheesy little depth gauge, Allen wrench that I have on my bench there, just to double check that I've got enough space in the bottom that I don't make a funnel. And I switch here to my swept-back bowl gouge from Crown. Helps get to the bottom a little bit easier without those wings getting in the way. So I was getting close to the end there. I found a little chip out on the rim, so I was just tweaking that really at the top to get everything round and true and kind of cleaned off there so there's no sharp edges. And then I found this really beefy Robert Sorby scraper that does a fantastic job on these little bowls. It's nice and sharp, and with the high speed, it really helped finish off the insides really fast and nice and clean. As I set up for sanding here, you see I've got the hose that's coming from the back of the lathe, and I've got a Oneida Supercell dust collector that does a fantastic job. And when I get that close enough, it really takes almost all the dust out of the air. But down below there, you can see kind of a rectangular slot and some stuff getting pulled in. And I have a front collection port on there for when I'm doing the outside of bowls that are big, and sometimes the dust just kind of goes straight down off the front edge of the bowl. That second port picks up anything that doesn't get pulled to the back. And I should do a video of this whole setup at some point, but it's kind of my own design that I've based off of a bunch of people's work, and it really does do a nice job. So here's the first set of 10 bowls that I made, and these are all from Sisu offcuts or Indian rosewood. After I did those, I took a break and did some cutting boards, and then I have here the second set, which includes a couple of bigger plates. Unfortunately, they had a couple of flaws in them, so I'm not going to be able to sell those. These things will sell like crazy. I made about 20 of these for my first market, and I've sold almost all of them to this point at about $10 a piece. So it's not a lot of money, but they only take 15-20 minutes, so it's kind of a fun little project, and people seem to enjoy them. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. That's pretty good. And Mr. Beans approves. Right? Yeah.